So it's being reported that Microsoft was out almost $500,000 due to a Bungie dev showing his ass. Now, this story happened almost 8 years ago, but we're just now hearing about the details. So first, to kind of set this up and to understand why this was a big deal at the time, you have to understand the political landscape and how much has actually changed just over the last 8 to 10 years. And we talk, about how politicians and public figures, they love to tie any real-world problems or real-world violence to anything doing with video games. And while you may think that it's bad today, it's actually gotten a lot better. And at one time, it was really bad. There were government officials involved. They were trying to pass laws to restrict games. There were a lot of questions about how the industry was going to move forward. There were lawsuits flying and everything else. And one of the biggest controversies that happened that, helped flame all this was actually Grand Theft Auto. And they released San Andreas, and there was something known as the hot coffee incident. So basically, there was code hidden within the game, and there was this mini game that could be accessed where you could basically watch, graphic sex scenes with in-game characters in GTA. And people didn't know or learn about this until after the game was shipped, after the game was launched and everything else. And so people started freaking out because the game didn't say anything about having nudity in it. They didn't report to the ESRB or anything that this was in the game. And it doesn't matter if you have something in a game that's hidden or not. If it's on the disc, if it's in the code, then you're supposed to tell the ESRB about it. And so this little incident ended up actually costing Take-Two a good chunk of change at the time. So this all happened around the same time that this Bungie and Microsoft debacle was going down. And here's how it went. So at the time, Steve Ballmer was the head of Microsoft. And if you've never seen any of the videos with Steve in it, I mean, he's kind of different. I mean, he's kind of crazy, to be honest. You can go check out videos of him running around, screaming and dancing and everything else. But a lot of people were intimidated by him. But a couple of Bungie devs decided that they were going to pull a prank. So he was at Bungie Studios checking out the production of Halo 2. And somebody set up a camera and, they worked it out where somebody mooned Steve Ballmer. And apparently he didn't realize that this whole deal revolved around him probably until fairly recently. So somebody got a picture of this Bungie dev's ass, and, it became a joke. And it was passed around into a lot of different places in Microsoft and within Bungie, but it stayed pretty well hidden. And at one time, somebody decided that they were going to attach this picture to an error that one of the devs get using one of their tools. So deep inside this tool, which maybe that's not the right term to use, they had artists working with different functions of the code, and if they did one particular thing, they would get this one specific error, and they nicknamed it the ass error. So what somebody did, thinking that they would be funny, is they attached this picture to that error. So anytime that the developer got that, they would see this picture. So since it was buried within this tool and it was a developer's tool, it's pretty unlikely that anybody would ever find this picture. But due to the whole GTA scandal, Microsoft decided they better say something. So they let the ESRB know that yes, there was this picture within the code. And, even though that they explained everything and that nobody would really stumble upon it, ESRB replied back and said that if the game is published and is sold, if it doesn't have a sticker on it that says that there's nudity in the game, then we are going to fine you. So the problem for Microsoft was the game had already shipped and was sitting at retailers, but it hadn't been released yet. So what they ended up doing was they had a recall, and they ended up delaying the game just so they could add a sticker on every copy that was sold in the US and Canada. So there are copies still out there today of Halo 2 where you can get it, where it says there's nudity in the game. Now, they did end up removing the code later so that all future copies of the game didn't have to print that label that said it had nudity in it. But again, this prank reportedly set Microsoft back $500,000 almost 8 years ago. And, you know, I doubt the devs that pulled this prank were probably cracking jokes at that point. And shortly after that, you know, is when Bungie and Microsoft had a little falling out, and Bungie ended up going their separate ways. Now, I'm not sure if it had anything to do with this, but it probably didn't help. So if you want to read more about it, links down in the description box, and now you know the rest of the story.
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.